signing in. But.
So, and I've got most of the questions that I have memorized. So the idea was to just kind of go through and have more of a conversation than anything else.
Oh my God, we've never had one though.
Never have we had
like?
one of those. So it should be terribly difficult for the two of us.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And we never talk about anything really deep.
That's right.
Or philosophical or meaningful.
No. That's why when I first thought of who I wanted to talk to in this genre, I was like, I have to talk to Elyse.
Because I am not shy.
No.
I will just tell
No.
Okay, well, it would be lovely if I could actually
Access your research?
Yes.
I do appreciate the fact that you decided that you were going to look into things and decide on stuff.
Well, I wanted to give you the information that you're seeking in the most organized way, rather than sort of willy-nilly, which is how they live in my head.
Right. Well, and I think we're all a little bit, we both understand how dangerous willy-nilly in our heads is.
Yes.
So
that's why people come to me.
There you go. Like, I make sense of what's there, but if anyone else got in there, I'm pretty sure they would go insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we can certainly start talking, and then I will, well, actually, if you're going to talk about something meaningful, I should be looking at you, so.
Well, so I do have, so it's funny because of all the questions I ask, I feel like they're all more or less important, but I was talking to somebody about this a couple days ago, and I have my opinion, which is going to shock you, I know. But
you're so shy about having an opinion.
I am, but I wanted to get your opinion on this first. So, when I was talking to a family member, and they were talking about women, and they were talking specifically about women who are trying to seek leadership roles, or they're in their workplace and that type of thing. And this person, who happens to be male also, made the comment that when women are assertive, that men instantly call them bitches, and they instantly hate them.
Dragon lady.
Right, exactly. And my comment back to him was, well, yes, a woman who is leading improperly, or someone who's doing it wrong, can be a bitch, just like a man who's leading wrong is a jerk or a dick or whatever.
Right.
So I was like, I don't think that it's necessarily fair to say every single woman who people think is a bitch isn't, and it's just a sexist thing.
A big difference between being a woman who's assertive and a woman who's aggressive.
Correct.
And that's where I think the line kind of gets drawn between, are they going to be accepting of her leadership and authority, or are they going to see her as a bitch? And aggressive women, and that's sort of a overcompensation for a feeling of not being taken seriously, not being considered equal in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not totally fantasy. It's, there's some truth in that, because historically, women, as many minorities, have not been given equal consideration and equal esteem and equal respect. So while I think that's seriously changed a lot, we're not done yet. We haven't gotten there.
I can see that we're not fully done yet.
Right. I mean, we have women CEOs now. We didn't in 1950. We have women running for president. We certainly didn't have that before. So,
no.
So I think it's come a long way, maybe, but we're not at the point now where women don't have an inherent self-consciousness, and that the history. It's like we walk in with suffrage movement. I mean, okay, not that dramatic, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's there. And so, but, women who are healthy and who have a good sense of themselves
mm-hmm.
and have the self-confidence, exude confidence.
Yes.
And that's attractive. Men, women, and dogs that are self-confident, people are drawn to that, and they're not put off. But when there's an insecurity, or there's a defensiveness, mm-hmm. where I'm walking into the room and I'm already assuming you're not going to take me seriously because I have some blonde, or you're not going to take me seriously because I'm a woman, or because I'm short, or whatever
mm-hmm.
reason. And so there's that chance of overcompensating and, really trying to prove myself. And that's the kind of stuff that's, that
So my obvious question on that one would go back to, okay, so if it's an insecurity in the woman,
mm-hmm.
or the minority, or whoever, or in the man, who initiates the, let's just say, rough piece of communication, shouldn't at least some of this fall back on the person who's insecure?
Absolutely.
So, because I like what you said about the confidence, because I've noticed that in men and women and everybody, the people who are confident instantly become the leader in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm a little jaded because of my wife. So, because I still think that Lulu is like the greatest human being. Like, it's always funny because she's like, well, as far, like, people are like, so she's the greatest woman. I'm like, no, she's better than the guy. Like, she's it. Like,
right.
So.
Like, we're not distinguishing gender here. We're just saying in the human race.
Yeah, she's just the best. So, and it's funny because there's I think it was Churchill, someone once said, the definition of diplomacy is telling somebody to go to hell in a way in which they look forward to the journey.
Yes.
And I've always thought Lulu could easily do that. Because she walks into a room, she instantly owns the room. Because when there's areas that she has expertise in, you know. And so it's just one of those things that I've always been like, I don't understand how so many people can say all women, are considered bitches when they try to take control. And I'm like,
I don't think we can say all anything.
Well, I would agree with that 100%.
I mean, that's what it means to be racist or sexist or
correct.
Anythingist.
Correct. Is blanket
because
statements.
We're blanket stating.
Yes. Yeah.
But also those kinds of things tend to surface. Those statements about any group tend to surface because of history and like there's some truth in a lot of stereotypes.
Yes.
For example, like it doesn't get to be a stereotype if it's not a
if
thing
it's
that
100% face.
Right.
Fake. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a collaborative consciousness where we all come up with this fake news.
Right.
Sorry. Try not to go there.
It's all
but
right.
it's more that it's something that it's been seen. The problem, where I think the problem, I never know if it's lies or lays, but where the problem
is, yeah.
Where the problem be?
I like that.
No, but where the problem is in an unwillingness of people to allow for change, evolution, growth.
Yes.
We keep people in one place and say, that's who they are. And it's like, women are submissive or passive. And it's like, no, they're not. Be willing to shift your viewpoint.
Right.
We look at everything through a filter. That's a social psychology concept of we have our own filter, and that's so this is how I see you. And as far as I know, the whole time I've ever known you, you've never had a left eye.
Right.
Because that's how I see you.
Right.
And then maybe you didn't have a left eye before, and so that's fine. But you tell me now I've gotten an eye now. I've had two.
I've got the two.
I have to be willing to shift.
Yeah.
In order to see it.
Yeah.
And I think too many people get stuck in their thinking, and that's what perpetuates isms, stereotypes of racisms and sexisms, because people aren't looking to see that things are different. People are different. We've evolved. We've grown, and so that's why even now in 2020, people are saying things like calling a female who's a leader a bitch or like I said, a dragon lady or a whatever. And so it's unfortunate, but all I think any of us can do. I mean, it might be chiropractors. Chiropractors are
yes.
It's like up there with witch doctors,
Yes.
and so and so when you're trying to gain legitimacy, let's say.
Okay.
And that's just a word I'm saying for meaning respect me as you would anyone else in a similar position, right? That when you're seeking to gain that, instead of walking into a room making the presumption that you won't be, if you walk in presuming you will be, that will come across, and you're more likely to successfully get that response.
See, I think that's a really good point. Because there's a couple of guys who are out, and I was talking to some of my I have a bunch of friends and patients who are like health coaches and stuff like that, and wellness coaches, and just life coaches, business coaches, and it's interesting to me, when you look at some of the success of some of these people, Tony Robbins, Jordan Peterson, so these guys, and it's just kind of who are you? Like, figure out who you are, figure out what your morals are, what your philosophy is before you start leaving. Like, Jordan Peterson's big thing was he's like, clean your room. Yeah. And people mistake this all the time. They're like, so if I have a clean room, I'll be better. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with cleaning the room.
It's like also the expression, keep your side of the street clean.
Yeah.
And it's like,
how is cleaning going to help me? It's like, no.
Right.
It's fix you first. Right. Figure out who you are. And so that's one of those big things that I've kind of noticed, because that's something I did a long time ago. And so it hasn't been something that's on my radar of like, I need to tell people to, figure out who they are first. And so that's a big piece. So if someone's wanting to figure out who they are, and they come in and they're like, I just got divorced, or I just moved to town, like, and they're trying to find out who they are. How do you like start that conversation so they can start figuring out who they are without saying, this is what you need to think and this is how you need to feel?
Right, because they've already probably come from that.
Yes.
That's why they're asking the question.
Right.
There's a term I've just actually recently come across called lifestyle design.
Okay.
And I thought it was kind of a cool phrase that I hadn't thought about before. But much like you would hire an interior designer to come and design your space.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a design, your lifestyle design. What is the picture, the vision? What does it look like?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you have the wherewithal to create that vision yourself. Or if you're like me and we're talking about a physical space, you pay people to do it.
Yes.
Because I don't have that gift of spatial relationships and color matching schemes. So, so on that analogy, but I am really good at the lifestyle design stuff.
Yes.
And so people can hire me to do that.
Right.
And so like any good designer, you're going to find out, what works for that person. And so I really cling to that analogy of like a space or a person.
Yeah.
Because, I can't walk into, if I'm a designer for a space, I'm not going to come in and say, this is what you should have because it's what I like.
Right.
You have to live in it, not me.
Right.
I'm going to go home to my space. You're going to be here. And that's how I take therapy. It's like, I first of all will never tell you what to do. I don't tell people, people come in for marital counseling or premarital counseling and they want to know, should we get married or should we get divorced? And I'm like, that's not my decision.
Right.
Because I don't have to live with it.
Right.
You do. So anytime somebody comes in and wants, to make a significant life change, and they're looking to me as that lifestyle designer,
yes.
Then I start with helping them figure out what they want, and then giving them the tools to achieve it. Okay. So I need to know who they are, and they want to know who they are. So we work collaboratively to figure that out.
Okay.
So some of the things that I actually had jotted down some questions that I would ask somebody, because I tend to do very seat of my pants therapy, where I go with what's in the room. I have a lot of empathy, so I can like kind of sense what people are feeling. I try to meet them where they are, and so it unfolds very naturally, but without actually doing a session with you right here, I thought, let me write down the kinds of questions I would typically ask. Some of the questions that come up is, well, what do you want to achieve in this life of yours? And I try not to like push people over the edge into an existential crisis, because that's not nice. But
fun.
But that is something that so many people struggle with, the why. What's my purpose?
Yes.
Because if you don't even have a purpose, like if I don't even have a purpose to fly an airplane, I'm not going to be able to file a flight plan. Right? It's like, why would I do that? I don't even know why I'd be going. So it's like, let's back up and first figure that out. But I can ask, what excites you?
Okay.
What do you love to do the most? Where would you most like to do that? sometimes people forget just how portable we are.
Yeah.
You know? And who would you most like to do that with? And if that person doesn't quite exist yet, but, you know, they have an idea, like it's not the person on the couch next to them.
Right.
But maybe, you know, I mean,
Well,
if they're coming in for couples counseling.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I speak to them individually, you know, well, who would you want to do that with? What would your life look like? And it's like, well, I know who it isn't.
Right.
Well, it's a good start. You know, but describe that person.
Yeah.
What are their traits? What are their attributes? What are their qualities? What are their, you know?
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see what they start with. Because if somebody is starting with the physical attributes, you know, I'm like, that's a little superficial. Like, is that, you know, because that's the thing that's going to change. That's the most subject to change.
Correct.
But somebody
we know
who's
that's
kind,
going to change.
somebody
Correct.
who's generous, somebody who has strong faith, somebody who loves children. These are things that, like, you know, that speaks to me much more than when somebody's saying,
5'10",
ripped abs,
blah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Let me check the camera real quick. I want to make sure.
Wouldn't it be funny if it hadn't ever started?
Oh, that would have been horrible.
And then here's the kind of deeper question is, what sort of impact on others do you hope to make while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing?
See, that one's always a good one because, like, one of the big things I talk about is legacy. So, like, when we sit down and we'll go through the 4 pillars, you know, biomechanical is super easy. Like, it's physics. Like, I don't understand how people don't understand some of the biomechanic stuff. I'm like, it's physics. Like, this is really elementary stuff. This isn't like quantum nuclear mechanics. But the biochemistry thing gets hard. The psychology is super fun for me. I love psych. And
Me too.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talk about and people don't usually see it is the legacy piece, which is, I put that into my spiritual piece because it's, you know, the way that we're all interconnected. And so that's a big piece. It's funny, you went through this list. And I'm not going to bore everybody with a really long story of it, but I almost did this exact thing right before I met Lulu. I sat down, I've been dating a bunch of different girls and it was fun and all, but I got just to the point where I was just totally just done. And I went down, I listed everything out that I wanted, and it took a long time. And then, so now I knew exactly 100% what I wanted. And then it was weird because it was probably a month, and that's when I met Lulu.
And to me, it's not that weird, because to me that it makes sense in the world I live in, because I believe in, you know, manifesting things, you know,
as do I,
from
to
that
a large
school
degree.
of thought, you know. And the thing is, how do you know if you find the person or the job or the entertainment even, or the, you know, whatever it is you're engaging in, how do you know it's right for you if you don't know what's right for you?
Right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
And so we have to start asking ourselves these questions. One of the exercises that I do sometimes sounds a little morbid, but it's actually really helpful. And I'll ask somebody to write how they want their eulogy to sound.
Yes.
You know, write your eulogy. What is it you want people to say about you? You know, do you want them to be talking about awards that you won, or the nice house you had, or how many dollars you had in the bank, or, you know, that you were a great parent, that you were, you know, philanthropic and generous, that you always opened your home to people, that you know, made a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
You know, because I would rather people talk about that than the other more, you know, I think it's superficial, you know, stuff. Because there's too many things that are not, I guess I want to say, not unique about being successful. There are certain, do you know what I mean? Like there's, for example, let's say I owned a booming chiropractic business, and you had just graduated from chiropractic college, and I said, hey, come work here, and I'm gonna give you all the clients you can have all day long, and da da da, and you are, become hugely successful, right?
Yeah.
And lots of money and all of that, but it doesn't really say anything at your funeral about who you were as a man. You got a really lucky break.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so not to minimize people's successes, either financially or their achievements, but we have to think about what kind of an achievement it is. That purchasing a big house, like, doesn't impress me, but achieving being a person I want to be around, that impresses me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's what I get people to try to think about when I say, what do you want your life to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go with what your house looks like. Who are you in the house?
Right, exactly.
What do you do when you leave the house? What do you do in the house? But it's that concept of what impact on others do you hope to make? Because when you're living in this self-centered universe, then that universe tends to be populated by just you.
Yeah.
And that gets lonely. And then people come in and they're like, I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
Well, are you in the world? Or are you kind of in your own world? That kind of thing. But some of the pointers that, encouraging comments I wrote down about designing one's own life is really encouraging people to realize that they call the shots. They really do.
Mm-hmm.
Powerlessness is an awful feeling, and I really try to, reduce that ick factor and eliminate that feeling, because it's not true. I don't like to work with things that aren't true.
Right.
I don't want to waste my time. I'm not going to sit and have a whole conversation about just how powerless someone is, because I don't believe that they are. They may feel powerless, and I will validate that they're feeling that way.
Yes.
But then I do a little bit of fact checking on, okay, but what choice did you make when you made that decision to enter into that situation?
Yes.
Well, I didn't have any other choice. Really? Let's
you?
look at that. Really?
Do you own a car?
Right.
You could have left.
Your feet are working? Good. What a blessing. Walk away if you had to. But, whatever situation, even, with their dead-end job, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when is the last time that you went on, like, Indeed.com or ZipRecruiter or this or that? We live in a world now where it's like we didn't even have to go to the store and get the paper to see what the want ads were.
Right.
There's a lot of opportunity, and it's easy to access. When's the last time you actually looked at, there's just not a lot out there. Really? How do you exactly how many did you see when you were looking? You know what I mean?
When was the last time you looked?
And it's like, 2 years ago. It's, okay.
Things
have changed. From one day to the next, you don't know if last night somebody posted something.
Right.
So the point is that the choices that you keep making are what are creating your situation. And so getting people to realize that they are unique and talented in their own way. And if somebody else isn't seeing that, then they're not expressing it enough. And so I try to help people figure out, what is that? Who are they in terms of their uniqueness, their talent, or their... even just hearing what they love to do helps me figure out,
what they should do, who they should...
Then if you have a talent for if you have a passion for that, you can develop the talent if you don't already have it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Well, even if you're not the best at it, if you love it, it's one of those things.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like if somebody says, well, art. Okay, and if you actually are not good at it, doesn't mean it can't be a wonderful hobby.
Yes.
Let's have that in your life while you're looking at ZipRecruiter for something that'll...
Yeah, exactly. You do have to eat.
Right. Exactly. I'm very practical that way. But being yourself is something you then will take into any situation, whether
Correct.
It's to the office or to the art studio or to whatever. But it's funny. Zig Ziglar, I wrote down a quote from him. He said, "You are the only person on earth who can use your ability."
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that a good one? I was like, huh. So people just have to realize they have an ability, you know?
So yeah, Nietzsche said something very similar, and I'm going to butcher it, but he said, it was talking about, crossing the stream, building the bridge over the stream of life. He said, you and you alone are the only one who can build that bridge. So basically it's, you're in charge of your own life.
Yeah.
Like, get to it.
Exactly.
So.
And, another thing I encourage them is that, I jokingly say, you need to start being selfish, because for a lot of people who are not really feeling like they know who they are, it's because they were so busy paying attention to what other people wanted them to be, that they didn't stop and take a look at what pleases them to be. And so and then I soften it, and I say, okay, I don't really mean selfish. What I mean is self-caring, self-preserving, self-respecting even. I'm going to go that far,
I see this problem with a lot of moms.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take care of the kids, they'll take care of their friends' kids, they'll take care of their husbands, they'll take care of their friends, they'll take care of the dogs and the stray animals.
And the house.
And if there's any time at the end of the day, they might think about taking care of themselves in the last 3 minutes before they pass out.
Right.
Which is not healthy, and it's not the best way to take care of the family.
Right. Because you'll burn out, and then you're going to be of no use to anybody.
Correct.
It's that old, affix your oxygen mask before helping others. And I deal with a lot of women with that issue.
Good.
And and part of that is that they feel like, well, it's been so long since I've had the time to choose that I don't even know what I'd choose if I had the time. And I'm like, great. I'm glad you know that. That's a start. Now we know where to start looking.
Yeah.
We got to look in that space. What would you want to fill it with? Let's pretend, that I'm going to wave a magic wand, and suddenly you have, a live-in nanny, a housekeeper, a driver to take the kids to school, and you've actually just now have time on your hands. How would you want to spend it?
Yes.
What would you do just as you, not in your role as mom, as wife, as employee, if there's work outside the home, not as a PTA member or whatever, but that just as whatever their name is,
Yes.
the woman.
Yeah.
And so many women forgot that was even there.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
They could do that.
That because women wind up defining themselves by all those roles.
Yes.
And forget about the core. There's a core there, and it just gets ignored.
There's a person. There's a person wearing these hats.
Yes.
You are not the hats.
Exactly. And so it's like, who is that person? So I just encourage people to, think about themselves. Bottom line. And actually, you know what I think is a lot of people, and it's not just women, but that people don't actually spend a lot of time thinking about their wants or their needs if they don't think there's an opportunity to get them met, because it kind of makes them feel bad. Like,
yes.
This is what I've heard from people where they're like, well, what's the point? I mean, I could all day long think about how I need, or I want to be loved in this way, or I need this, but I'm not going to get it. So why am I going to sit there and think about it? I'd rather just distract myself with something else.
See, that's a really interesting point to me, because that I think is the big difference in a lot of people, because that's one of those things that if there's something that I want and I can't fit it in my life, or I can't achieve it for some reason, I try to figure out how, or I try to figure out what to do.
Because that's what healthy people do.
Oh, so I'm oh, that's scary thought.
Well, at least that thought is healthy.
Okay, well, all right.
Let's not get crazy. And that's what I, again, try to get them to see that, well, okay, you're thinking about it
backwards.
in this, in reverse, in this negative way. And so then I'm encouraging people to be self-preserving and tap into what those are. Don't just ignore them thinking, well, I can't have them anyway, because you probably can.
Yes.
I mean, if it's, I want to be an astronaut, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe. But, I want to be able to go back and play tennis. I haven't played it in 20 years, and you know, I really loved it, and
Yeah.
you know, but I don't have time. Well, nobody has time. We make time. And you know, talking about what would that look like, even if it, what if you just went, you know, one time, just go hit some balls, you know, whatever, and just, you know, with the machine, with the thing, just one time, you know, and just see what that feels like, and how did you feel after, and you know, did it bring you joy, and you know, was it what you remembered, and you know, all of that. And if you enjoy it, then great. Then don't tell me you can't make time, because you told me about how you went last Tuesday at 3, so I know you can make time.
There you go.
And so, a little trickery, but that's sometimes what you got to do.
Yeah, sometimes they need hugs, and sometimes they need a push.
Yes. And you know, the other thing I say is about embracing change, and like, not to quote Nike commercials, but just do it, because there's never going to be a good time.
Right.
There's never a good time to start my weight loss program. There's never a good time to start going back to the gym. There's never a good time for people to quit smoking. There's never a good, there just won't be.
No.
Because it's like, you know, I love the movie Airplane. I guess I picked the wrong week to quit, you know, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's sniffing glue, whatever, you know, it's drinking, smoking, whatever.
Yeah.
I picked the wrong time. Well, no, there's never a wrong time to stop an unhealthy habit.
Correct.
And there's never a good time to start one.
Correct.
Over any other time.
Right.
You know, I'm not a fan of the whole, you know, wait till a Monday. No, there's nothing magical about Monday. You know, that's a construct that's, you know, I won't get into that. But the point is if that's what you're wanting, stop putting it off.
Yeah.
Just do it. And it doesn't mean you have to jump in with both feet and just, you know, but at least start walking towards the pool.
Right.
You know, that's the thing, is do something, even if it's a small thing every day.
Yes.
That's in that direction.
Yeah. Small steps every day get us a lot further than procrastination.
What is the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step?
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I've heard as well.
Yeah. So those are some ideas. And when people say, well, I really just don't even know, you know, who I am or what I want. I mean, then it is hard to design your life, right? You know, it's you don't even know what to say to the lifestyle designer. You know, when they say, well, it's like, well, what colors do you want to work with? If it's an interior designer, I don't know. Do you like blue? Maybe. You know, I mean, it's like, so some people are like that, and that's when, now I've got to back up even further.
Yeah.
And to your point about like core values, we start exploring that.
Okay.
And say, okay, well, it's like, what matters to you?
Yeah.
It's like this most simplistic way to describe a core value. What matters to you? And I actually have this thing, and I can provide you with the link to the web, and you can put it on your website.
I'll put it on the
but
site.
there's this thing when it comes to personal morals and values. I turned to this, I printed it out from a website, and basically this is a list of 400 personal values.
That's awesome.
Because people say, well, I don't even know, like, what's a value? Like, what do you mean? Like, don't kill people? I'm like, well, yeah, that's sort of, but you're kind of borrowing that from the 10 Commandments. But, you know, there's more to that.
It's a good one.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
I say it
usually
definitely
down
should
with
be
that
on the
one.
list.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, acknowledgement, adaptability, attentiveness, eagerness, frankness, helpfulness. I mean, I'm just pulling them out of nowhere, you know. Saintliness, playfulness, keenness. I mean, there's, you know, kindness. There's so many things. And so what I do is help people out and say, all right, instead of trying to pull it out of thin air, or pull it out of somewhere else, what I say is, here's a list. I want you to look at these words and see what speaks to you.
Yeah.
Like, when you see it, do you go, yeah, or I don't even know what that is, or I don't care about it. You know what I mean? And so I have them highlight or circle or whatever, all all of them. I said, don't worry about like that. Oh, you're going to run out. Like you're not allowed to have that many values.
Right. Right.
But pick them all. Then the next step is, okay, a lot of these are like related.
Yes.
And so then I take them and help them group them into like, you know.
Basically thought bubbles.
Yeah. Of like, you know, what is, these are very similar in that they are all about, you know, giving to others or something like that. And this is all about, you know, intelligence and attaining knowledge and accomplishment. You know, those are like, another set. And so we do that. Then I say, okay, of those, pick your favorite.
Yep.
You know, and we start to narrow it down.
Okay.
And of the 400, if they can get it down to 20,
that's pretty solid.
I can work with that.
Yeah.
You know, and then ultimately we wind up probably at 10.
Okay.
That really encompass what's most important
to that person.
To that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's their journey. I mean, I might value some things that they don't, and they may value things that I don't, but I don't judge them because they have to walk in their shoes. I don't.
Right.
Just as I respectfully request people not judge me and my choices, because I am uniquely me. And so.
That is definitely true.
So, and I have the self-confidence to take that as a compliment.
As you should.
But yes, this is an exercise because, you know, when you just say like, you know, what do you know, or another example of that is when I ask people like, well, what are their core beliefs about themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell me about some of your behaviors. Like, what, you know, okay, and what were you thinking when you were doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how did you feel when that was happening? Okay, and
then
yeah,
afterwards.
So all that, and then we look at it and we say, well, it sounds like your core belief is that, you know, other people are dumb, and so you feel like you have to do this, you know, or whatever. That's what it's, you know, or that your core belief is that, you know, other people are gonna, you know, look
push
out
you around,
or look out for you. Okay. That's fine. However, that might get challenged at some point.
Yes.
So instead of, you know, having this big generalization about people, we need to just look at who are the people in our lives and what are they doing.
Yes.
And how do you want to behave? Oh, good. Now we're back to you again.
Good.
See?
Perfect.
So,
this is something I want to do with my kids. There's a lot of this that, you know, when I read, you know, 12 Rules for Life, or when I read some of the Robin stuff, or I, you know, read Ryan Stewman's stuff and like the G Code and stuff. It's very interesting. It's things that I want my kids, and there's a lot of the people I work with who are even, you know, high-end guys who are kind of not lost, but they're chaotic. Yeah. And it's like, look, let's try to rein in what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say that about kids, because that's actually one of the things that when there are things that, again, parents do for their kids that they don't do for themselves, you know, and I'm even guilty of that in the past, where when my kids were little, I would take a day off from work to take them to the doctor.
Right.
But for me, I'll just wait and see if it gets any worse. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't want to take off time from work to go to the doctor, but oh, my kid has a cough. Hey, cancel all my patients today. I got to take my kid to the doctor.
Right.
You know, and so that's one of the things you have to learn about, you know, self-care, that you've got to do things for yourself. So this is the kind of thing that if you want your children to have certain values, well, then they must be important to you. So that helps you understand your values. And then when you're aware of them, you can make effort to model it.
Yes.
Or at least just be, it's not even, it shouldn't take effort, but be conscious of if the opportunities never present themselves, then create opportunities for you to be able to model certain behaviors. You know what I mean? Because knowing what your core values are essential to knowing yourself and the powers you possess. And I also talked about knowing those values is a prerequisite to creating a life in alignment with them. And, you know, when you were talking about kids, it's like thinking about your legacy.
Yeah.
Because if you know your personal values, then you can decide what you want to pass along to your children.
Yeah.
And how you'll do that. You know? Because it's not the do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Never works.
It doesn't?
Don't smoke, children. It's an awful dirty habit.
Trust
you
me, I
know?
would know.
Yeah. Please. Because it's the meta communication, the things we're not saying with our words that the children will hear louder than any words you can give them.
Man, this parenting thing is hard.
It is. But you know what? It's fun.
It is fun.
And it's so rewarding.
Well, I have a 6 and 8. Give me another 10 years. We'll talk about how rewarding it is.
Yeah.
You've done a hell of a job.
Well,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, your kiddos are spectacular. So
I'm a little biased, but
well, I can
I
understand,
agree.
as you probably should
know.
be. I think everybody should think their kids are the best.
right?
So.
And it was not a walk in the park.
No.
I'll tell you. You know, some people will look at, you know, children who are, let's say, well behaved or have good manners or whatever, and they're, oh, well, you're lucky. Excuse me? What? They came out of the womb that way.
Yeah.
They said please and thank you to the, doctor when they were born.
I've come to really start to seriously dislike the term "you're lucky" because 90% of the time it's, hey, you did a lot of work and it really sucked all that work you did. But I'm going to say you're lucky because I'm not willing to do the work and I'm just going to cover it up like that. And you're like, no.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I built this thing, or I did this thing, or my kids act this way because, you know, I've spent lots of time dealing with this.
Right. Managing them.
Managing, yes.
And that's, you know, really what I when I talk about parenting, I talk about managing them. Because I think too many parents equate parenting with controlling.
With dictating.
And that's such a myth that we can control another human being. Have we not learned that ever in our lives? And so I'm a big fan of parental management. It's a child management position.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like we don't want to squelch their little spirit, but we also can't have them bouncing off the walls.
Correct.
And so we try to manage the behavior by providing them alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
I think choices are really important to give children. But the secret is only give choices where you win. You know what I mean? When parents say, you better stop